On Jordan's point about how does he, in a sense, get an equal voice in this debate back if it is implied that his participation brings with it this baggage of white privilege that doesn't allow him to see clearly the issues that are before us.
But that is to be complicit in the very problem itself terminologically. You're beginning at a point that's already productive and controversial. You're saying, how can he get his equality back? Who are you talking about? Jordan Peterson?
So what just happened, because this is all coming back to me. So Jordan Peterson asked the question, if you're going to assume that as a white person, I have all this in-baked privilege, and you're going to dismiss my opinions because of that, like, what's the point of me being here? Is there any way for you to talk to me as an individual, right?
Yeah.
And individually hear my ideas and my concepts. And Michael Eric Dyson's response to that is, how dare this white man has to be taken as an individual?
Right.
He's a white person, and thus he has privilege because of his group and his history, or the history of his group, yada, yada, yada. So he's literally denying we're already into the racism because he's denying Jordan Peterson's individuality from the word go here.
Yeah.
Trending #1 on Twitter, Jordan Peterson with an international bestseller. I want him to tweet something out about me in my book. Jordan Peterson, right? This is what I'm saying to you. Why the rage, bruh? You're doing well, but you're a mean, mad white man, and you're gonna get us right.
And you hear the second part of that too is really bad that we don't focus on. He said, you're a mean, mad white man, and you're gonna get us right. Like, you're gonna get black people right. And how you conceptualize us. Yeah.
What do you think he meant by that?
He meant like, you're gonna put us in our place. That's how I interpret it. Like, the mean, angry white man is gonna, he's gonna tell black people what's what.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen so much wine and snowflaking. There's enough wine in here to start a vineyard. And
the irony, the hypocrisy.
I'm trying to bring up the volume on the clip, and every time you pipe in, it's like blows it out. So just FYI.
Sorry. We can just play the clip if you want.
Yeah, let's just play the clip.
What I'm saying to you empirically and precisely, when you ask the question about white privilege, the fact that you ask it in the way you did, dismissive, pseudoscientific, non-empirical, and without justification, the truth is that white privilege doesn't act according to quantifiable segments. It's about the degree to which we are willing as a society to grapple with the ideals of freedom, justice, and equality upon which it's based. Number two, what's interesting to me, you're talking about not having a collective identity. What do you call a nation? Are you Canadian? Are you Canadian by yourself? Are you an individual, or are you part of a group? When America formed its union, it did so in opposition to another group. So the reality is that those who are part of group identities in politics deny the legitimacy and validity of those groups and the fact that they have been created thusly, and then have resentment against others. All I'm asking for is the opportunity. The quotation you talk about, the difference between equality of outcome and equality of opportunity, that's a staid and retried argument.
Go ahead.
So this is so much worse than I remember.
Oh, I know. It's fucking awful. I'm just so triggered right now.
What he said is crazy, because it's like, okay, if he's like, oh, well, why is it okay for you to group yourself according to your nation, but for us not to group ourselves according to race? Yeah. Like, this is a white nationalist talking point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's baffling, because it's like, okay, if the argument was, the argument used to be, black people and people of all colors and creeds and ethnicities should be allowed to be grouped together in the America group.
As
that
Americans.
Used to be the argument.
Yes. Right. And we should group that way. We shouldn't group based on race.
Right.
That's the whole idea behind eliminating racism.
Right. And now he's like, no, because you didn't let us be Americans, we're going to be blacks now. We're not going to be Americans. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of the argument that he's making.
Yeah, it's awful.
Jeez.
Hackneyed phrase derived from the halcyon days of the debate over affirmative action. Are you looking for outcomes that can be determined equally, or are you looking for opportunity? If you free a person after a whole long time of oppression and say now you are free to survive, if you have no skills, if you have no quantifiable means of existence, what you have done is liberated them into oppression. And all I'm suggesting to you, Lyndon Baines Johnson, one of our great presidents, said, if you start a man in a race 100 years behind, it is awfully difficult to catch up. So I don't think Jordan Peterson is suffering from anything except an exaggerated sense of entitlement and resentment, and his own privilege is invisible to him, and it's manifest with lethal intensity and ferocity right here on stage.
Jordan, I'm going to have to let you respond to that. If you
Look at that. So fucking evil.
Yeah.
Lethal intensity and ferocity. What?
Of resentment and of his own, his invisible privilege to him.
I forgot about the part where Jordan Peterson killed so many people with his words in this debate. Sitch?
Well,
what
he
happened?
did kind of murder Michael Eric Dyson on stage, so maybe.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if that counts, but
he definitely didn't walk away. Oh God, I wish we had the ending.
Well, what I derived from that series of rebuttals, let's say, is twofold. The first is that saying that the radical left goes too far when they engage in violence is not a sufficient response by any stretch of the imagination, because there are sets of ideas in radical leftist thinking that led to the catastrophes of the 20th century, and that was at the level of idea, not at the level of violent action. It's a very straightforward thing to say you're against violence. It's like being against poverty. It's like, generically speaking, decent people are against poverty and violence. It doesn't address the issue in the least. And with regards to my privilege or lack thereof, I mean, I'm not making the case that I haven't had advantages in my life and disadvantages in my life like most people. You don't know anything about my background or where I came from, and it doesn't matter to you because fundamentally I'm a mean white man. That's a hell of a thing to say in a debate.
See that how he doubled down? He's like, and true. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
He said that's a hell of a thing to say in a debate. And he's like, and true. He's like, fucking.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Let me stick the knife in a little deeper here.
Let me just say,
very, very brief, because I want to move on to men and women. A good topic next.
The mean mad white comment was not predicated upon my historical excavation of your past. It's based upon the evident vitriol with which you speak and the denial of a sense of equanimity among combatants in an argument. So I'm saying again, you're a mean mad white man, and the viciousness is evident.
Okay.
Do you know what he said?
What?
It's actually really fucked up. He said it in very big words, but what he said was, I'm not calling you the N-word because of the history of oppression of black people. I'm calling you the N-word because you're acting like an N-word.
Oh,
that's what he just said.
Wow.
But he said it in nicer language.
Yeah.
So that makes it acceptable.
Yeah. I'm glad for the translation, because I was like, what did he just say?
That's what it's crazy. That's what a fucking racist thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you a mean, angry white man because of the history of white people. I'm calling it because you're acting like a mean, angry white man.
Yeah.
Well, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's fucking racist.
No. Mike Eric Dyson's a piece of shit.
Is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was it. Let's see him be even. Let's see if 5 years has made him less racist, or 3 years, whenever that was.
I think it's going to be worse.
I think you're right.
For having me, Brother Don. You would hope they were joking, because if they weren't, this exposes the vast lethal ignorance at the heart of so much whiteness.
Again. Lethal.
Lethal ignorance at the heart of whiteness. What does that even mean?
Who is dying over this shit?
Listen.
Who's dying over the boomer tier conversation about skin tone colors?
Listen, George Floyd died because of this future conversation that Joe Rogan had with Jordan Peterson.
Doubtful. Sitch, citation needed. No, I don't believe you.
If only what was the cop's name?
Derek Chauvin.
If only Derek Chauvin wasn't so ignorant about the history of oppression of black people, he would have somehow behaved differently in that confrontation with George Floyd.
I don't know.
That no evidence was ever provided that he acted in any sort of racial manner, but still, it's the racism.
They didn't even make a racist argument in court. No. They didn't even accuse him of racism.
Nope.
Oh, man.
Intentional or not, we all know that black is not a phenotypical reality. We're not talking about a genetic predisposition toward darker skin. We're speaking about an existential context. We're talking about a philosophical idea. We're speaking about rooted cultures in deep histories that have vast traditions that have generated complicated identities.
So this is very dishonest.
Well, this is white nationalist talking points all the way. Everything he just said, you could easily hear white nationalists saying the exact same thing.
It's hilarious. You could very easily hear Richard Spencer saying like, listen, I don't have to determine whether Italians are white because whiteness isn't about skin color. It's about a shared culture,
philosophy,
blah, 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 blah.
And a history of, you know.
Yeah. You're so right. That's hilarious. I didn't even think about that. But this is also dishonest because the conversation didn't start with them saying, well, what is blackness? The conversation started with him saying, oh, you know, he called me white. There's a conversation about whiteness.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Michael Eric Dyson's spinning it around like, oh, they're attacking my blackness, which was never what was actually being talked about.
Right. Yeah.